What's good, everyone? It's Dusty Black Jermaine Jones-Jenkins Jr. in the recording studio again. Jet Black asked us to let him handle this whole Charlie Kirk thing because he didn't want black people or Muslims debating reactions to that piece of, she's of pit, as Jet Black would tell us to call it. Call him. As the demographic that gets blamed for everything, including the assassination of Charlie Kirk, I requested and got his permission to address not the assassination itself, but the psychosis behind blaming us for it and everything else. Historically, black colleges and universities had to be shut down because of threats called in as retaliation for Charlie Kirk. And you already heard about this. A lot of people from where Jet and I grew up go to Jackson State and Southern University over in Baton Rouge or even New Orleans. So we know moms and dads of students that are staying holed up in their dorms because these unhinged Wyatts are out here calling in threats to everyone. What's jacked up about it is that we get blamed for everything, not just everything bad that the white wing dislikes, but everything that might be a bit convenient for us. This is a psychosis that afflicts not only Wyatts, but also our sistren, which is how I got my name. I'll never again manage to lower my blood pressure when I should be relieved at some things, because if I had nothing to do with it, I'll still be blamed for it simply because it didn't harm me enough. When the next racist dies, I'll be blamed for it. When the next Miss Andress dies, I'll be blamed for it. When the next divester is cut up into pieces and dissected like a medical school student's cadaver by the Wyatt man she chose, trust and believe that I will be blamed for it. I am you, black man, and you are me. Together, you and I are so accustomed to being blamed for these things that the next time someone goes through something hard, we expect to be blamed for it, and we fear that we might be blamed for it before the blame is assigned. The psychosis behind that blame has a nasty side effect. That side effect is that we wind up with our own psychosis, and that is one of disengagement in order to prove our innocence. This way, when someone who dislikes us goes through anything painful or lethal, we can say we weren't even around when it happened. We can say we were inside watching reruns of In the Heat of the Night, and the cable company can verify that. We can say we were at work at that time, or by ourselves at this bar, and the camera there recorded us. We seek to not be around the scenes of crimes, and we do a pretty good job at it if we're anywhere near the black manosphere. A black man that refuses to be the stereotype is usually out of the vicinity of what happens to our enemies. Yet, and still, I am, just as you are, Dusty Black Jermaine, and it's all our fault. It's always our fault. It's why she's done with life. That's what she said in that video. The issue is that this particular crime committed against Massa Charlie Hebdo Kirk isn't our fault at all, but yet, Charlie's followers were out here recording themselves on cameras declaring war on Democrats. And we know what that dog whistle phrase means. They said this was war against us darkies and any others who don't dislike us enough. This was what they meant because it is what they usually mean when they say Democrats or lefties or liberals with such vitriol. They weren't sure that it wasn't one of their own that did this when they said this stuff, because they know that any of us with a sniper rifle of any kind and any skill at marksmanship without a law enforcement license and a good Wyatt man to vouch for us being good niggas gets us on the government watch list. They knew that they were expected to all be on alert for any of us who learned any sort of self-defense beyond ghetto street fighting and reported, just so that one of us could be pegged for anything that we might find convenient. We knew it too. And this is one way we knew we had nothing to do with this. Had there been a black man nearby that had no police or military past and had the weapon and the marksmanship to do this, he'd have been caught within minutes because the FBI and probably some of their cooperating local allies would have already been watching him. Hell, Charlie Kirk would still be walking around talking about the uncovering of the leftist Democrat, libtard darky plot to take him out. We knew that only one of the Wyatts could have such a weapon and the marksman skills and then use them as such and then escape the scene without apprehension. He had to tell his dad and be turned in for him to even be caught. Neither the feds nor Utah's law enforcement were ever going to look for any sort of their own without being forced to. However, I wanted to remind you, brethren, that we must not allow ourselves to internalize this guilt anymore, this guilt that both Sapphire and her benefactor Massazati want to hoist on us. We also need to encourage each other to throw off that guilt too, because many of us believe subconsciously that we are guilty when we aren't. We often think that when we are innocent of that for which we are punished, it is because of something else we did that we got away with doing. And sometimes that is true, but that isn't why we are out here getting punished. We're getting punished because we're Black and men and heterosexual. We can't be out here feeling guilt for things we didn't do, and we have to train ourselves not to because we have been trained to feel exactly that. I guess what I'm saying is the same thing that Jet Black told us years ago before I was old enough to get this job. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. I'm Dusty Black Jermaine, and it's not my fault. The next time something bad isn't your fault, remember that it isn't your fault. And calmly repeat that to yourself or to whoever wants you to answer for it. If unchecked, this can cause a serious depression later in life. I know. As a light-skinned Jermaine, I felt guilt whenever it didn't work out with a sisters darker than me, and I never dated a woman that wasn't darker than me because neither they nor I would date each other. This means every time it didn't work out, they'd wonder out loud if I just used them for sex because of their shade. And while I never used any like that, I felt guilty that they even could wonder that, like I did something wrong if they could even have that question. I later went through a depression that would increase my sadness, to the point that when I finally did date a woman that was my same shade, I was relieved when she was detached in the beginning. When I had a health symptom that indicated a risk to my life, I never sought a doctor for it because I was ready to pay for my sins with my life, forgetting that some of the sins weren't mine but someone else's. I was ready to pay for the sin of appearing guilty in the victim's eyes because I internalized the sense of my guilt, not from the Wyatts that like to blame us, but from the sistren who follow Wyatt Zaddy and use their proximity to us to convince us of our guilt. This isn't just me. It's how we're raised and trained in this gynocracy, and it's time we shake that off. No more. Save feeling guilt for that over which we had control, knowledge, and authority, and it still turned out bad. Otherwise, you might find yourself believing that Charlie Kirk was right, and worse, you might find yourself thinking that Charlie Kirk even believed those damn lies he told. He's not here to lie anymore, but he will be replaced, and we can't afford to believe in, or even just feel, a sense of our own guilt for what we didn't do. Thanks for listening. As always, Black heterosexual, non-select male power, just because Sapphire doesn't like it, and Black patriarchy until extinction or Judgment Day. Thanks for flying with us here on Jet Black Air, where the phrase jet black is also a verb. Keep jetting black with us until the wings and the wheels fall off. Gender and racial justice forever.